Brandon, so happy to connect with you. Can you just give me a little update on what's happening with the agency? How's growth? How are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been I think it's going just a little bit over 2 years now since we officially started, and I remember when we first got started and I started working with Clickx. I at that time really had no idea how to build out my agency. I learned so much from you guys, and now 2 years later, a little over 2 years later, we have clients on every continent now except for
Wow.
Antarctica. I'm going to different conferences. I'm traveling today here in Texas, working with a clinic in person on a handful of projects. So it's been awesome. Really rapid growth. I owe a lot of it to you guys too. So it's been great. I
Wow.
really have been enjoying it.
I don't think you took a day off, so I think you need to take some rest.
Nope, I didn't.
um, and I remember too, like when you're like, "Hey, Salman, I want to narrow my niche, and I want to do that." And I'm so glad you did because look at that, right? Like
Yeah.
now you're the authority in your space. I talk about you a lot in my content. Is because you decided to nail that niche, and decided to
Mhm.
build them an irresistible offer, and decided to go all in on it. So it's easier. And how about those integrations that you built? Those are some extra work you did that you didn't have to, but you wanted to do all of that for those clients. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that real quick.
Yeah, we've done so. Our primary focus, our niche is in the IVF and fertility industry. So we work with IVF and fertility clinics, helping them grow helping them acquire new leads, nurture those leads, do patient journeys and patient automation or patient communication automation. And one of the things that always stands out in talking to these clinics and talking to any clinic is a need to integrate with electronic health records. So a long time ago, I was part of a laboratory startup in North Carolina, and we spent a lot of time learning and implementing building electronic health records. So I've taken like what I've learned from forever ago, and we've been able to build out electronic health records. That's what I'm doing here. This week is working on an electronic health record interface into our platform. And then being able to
Wow.
do like medical billing and everything. So almost turning what we have into our own little electronic health record. So it's been really cool just kind of finding what they need. And if people weren't willing to make a change over to what we were doing because that was missing, well, we created what
Right.
was missing. And so it made it possible to 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 generate more business that way.
And by the way, it's the going the extra mile to serve those businesses because you wanted to go and serve that
Yeah.
industry, right? Like it's that deep. And now that just gives you a bigger moat,
Mhm.
if I may. And then you keep building more and more electronic health records and other integrations. Whoever comes to you, you're going to be able to take them on and say, yeah, we have that, we have that, we have
Right.
that, right? Like
Right. Exactly.
which marketing agency is going to come and say, well, you should work with me on Facebook ads. And then you're over here, you know everything, patients, right? Their history and their
Right.
lead generation. Yeah,
Right.
and I think that's the real big moral of the story. Is the other piece I wanted to share with the world is how you and I was on my call. You're like, Solomon, here's my workflow in generating booked appointments. And I thought what you were doing was absolutely game changing. And I wanted to share it with the world. And if you don't mind, if you just kind of show what that workflow looks like,
Sure.
how you generate leads, we have
Yeah.
this giant database, and then you take that information and then you enhance that data. You don't just send an email. I think that was really, really cool. And I didn't
Yeah.
give you kudos on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm more than happy to show you what I built. One of the things that I think is really important, like you're saying, the importance of really niching down and focusing on a key area, focusing on a niche, is number one, it helps you to not get distracted, but number two, it allows you to really get to know your industry and get to know your niche really well. And so for me, if I'm just saying like I didn't randomly pick a niche. I didn't randomly pick the fertility industry. I've been working in this space for forever. So most of my contacts, relationships I have are all within that space. And so identifying that it was not just general health clinics, but the fertility industry specifically that I wanted to focus on. Number one, it's something that I already had expertise in. But number two, in being able to really like niche down in those spaces, as I've been using ClickX and downloading data and contact information for different fertility clinics in the US and in other areas of the world, what I realized is because it was so focused on this specific industry, it made it possible for me to get these lists, but not just send out these like massive emails with no personalization. I kind of combined best of both worlds. So our platform, we built out our whole infrastructure on high level. So our platform is built upon their system. So we built all of our EHR interfaces, all of that, all off of their infrastructure. So what I really set out to do was to figure out how could I set up like a semi-automated cold emailing system, but still make sure that it wasn't just like a bunch of the same email going out to everybody without any kind of personal touch, because then nobody's going to really pay attention to it. So a couple things that I did, and actually I think this is one of the most important things, and I'll just point this out for anybody who's using high level. One of the most important things that you can do is, if you're using it and you go into your email services, you always want to make sure that you set up a custom dedicated email address, so that you're not just sending from some dummy or general email, because that way it's specifically dedicated to your marketing emails. And you shouldn't use an email like reply dot or email dot, because Google will actually flag that as spam most likely. So identifying like a dedicated email makes a huge difference. So that way, as you're sending emails, it's going to end up in people's inbox. That's the whole idea. So I just wanted to point that out just as a little tip. So what I did is I set up a way that could really easily send these cold emails, but add a bit of a personal touch to it. What's really cool about here in Clickx is the ability to find data and then download that data and integrate it into high level and upload all of that data into high level. So I just ran this before our call, have some fertility clinic contacts in the state of Colorado. What's great is I can come over here to this high level integration. I can upload all of these categories into high level.
And that's a filter in case you didn't like some of those people.
Right,
you can limit what goes out of here, so you don't have data that you're not really going to be using.
Right. And so when I click upload, it pushes it to high level. And what's great is when it pushes it over to high level, it actually comes across tagged in high level as Clickx. So that way I know where those leads are coming from, which is super important. And I'll show you why. So here, when I click these smart lists, I have this, oh, there it is, uploaded from Clickx. So here's all of these leads that I just imported from Clickx, which is awesome. So here they are, was 22 leads that were downloaded. And I know that these are all fertility clinics because that's the data that I purchased. So what I do is I select them all. I tag them as new lead so that I know that didn't reach out to them yet. Fertility clinic. So now it's going to take all of these out of this list because I've processed them, and it's going to put them into a smart list that I made that is specifically new fertility clinics to email. So now I've got this whole list, new leads, fertility clinics. So you can see these are the ones that came from Clickx. These are some that haven't been processed yet, but I'll just find the ones that I just did today here. What I typically like to do is open up two different windows so I can jump back and forth between this contact list and what I'm about to show you. So I'll open up this dashboard again. So what I do is I like to make sure that things are, like I said, do a little bit of personalization. Number one, it's because people will receive it better. Number two, you never know, like especially if you're focused and you have some expertise in the niche that you're operating in, when you go to somebody's site, this email address, jeremy@newhopefertility.com. So I want to go see their website. I'm going to find out something really quickly about them, and then I'm going to put it into this cold email. So let's open up the browser, and it's newhopefertility.com. So I look at it really quick. I'm like, okay, New Hope Fertility. Now, the cool thing is, like I said, if you have some expertise in your industry, you may see something on the website that you're like, oh, no way, I know this person, or I heard about this service before. So by doing this really quick, it gives you a way to just maybe there's like some real personalization or a connection you had with this business you're reaching out to that you didn't realize before. So here, what I would just say is like, cool, mini IVF protocol. Awesome. That sounds unique. So I come over to this form, and remember, I read about New Hope Fertility, mini IVF, sounded interesting. So all I do in this form is I paste the email address in there and say, I was just reading about your mini IVF program. That is fascinating. How has the program been going? So that is my little personalization, and I hit submit. What's cool about that, I submit that form, and I made an automation. You'll see here, I made a cold email automation that is based upon that form being submitted. So when I submit that form, it's showing that I submitted the form and updated that contact. It takes off the tag that's for new leads because they're no longer new right there. I've contacted them, and it sends an email. Subject is still looking to grow your clinic. And here's that personalized intro that I typed. That's going to show up in the email. And then it goes through and it introduces who Seema is. And then it just does some other follow-up emails over like a 4 or 5 day period. And you can see here's the one that I just sent. So you can look at his contact record and see the email that was sent. There it is. I was reading about your mini IVF program. That's fascinating. How has the program been going? And it looks like a personalized, nice email.
Wow.
And then what I did is I also built some automations based upon if someone opens it, if someone clicks it, or if someone replies it. If they open it, it puts them in my forecast here. If they click it, it puts them here. Or if they reply, it'll put them here. So that way I can, and then I get a text and I'll know. So I'm like, oh man, this person clicked that email that I just sent. So then I'll jump in here and I'll send them a text message and be like, hey, what'd you think? Are you interested in talking? Because they obviously clicked. So it gives you a way to really pay attention to it. If you set something up like this, you don't have to use all the, like, you don't have to do it all this like fancy ways. You could even if you don't have high level, you could go through and use like a keyboard shortcut on a MacBook or on a computer or on your iPhone, where you put in the pre-built boilerplate template as like a keyboard shortcut. And then you find somebody's website, you type a personalized email, you use the keyboard shortcut, you put in like the big chunk of it, and then you send it. There's a lot of ways to do it that you don't have to like go through all this. But the benefit is, like, you might be thinking, well, I want to send out, like, you want to follow Alex Hormozy's advice, right? Like, you want to send out 100 cold emails a day, and you're like, well, how could I ever send out 100 cold emails a day if I'm personalizing all of this? Well, it's possible once you kind of get into a good rhythm of doing it. But also, even if you don't send 100 a day, sending like 10 to 20 cold emails a day that are personalized are more effective than just sending 100 like with no personalization. So this has been really cool, and the fact that we can import all of this data directly from Clickx is phenomenal. There's so many interesting things that you can do with all of the different tools that are being provided there. But this is one of them, and it's really paid off. Like this guy right here, I have a demo call with him in just a few minutes. So it works out, like it works. So it's cool. But that's it. I could go down like the rabbit hole, but I'll stop.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your screen. That is freaking insane. I mean, like I said, it's something that you figured out for yourself. You personalized it. Show me that you know me. That's what it's called. Like, you really truly have done that, and it took you like not even 10 seconds. I was timing you.
Yeah.
you literally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what piece of advice would you give to somebody who's like struggling to generate appointments?
You have to do something that's going to make yourself stand out, right? So like, think about it. What I think is helpful to do is to look and think about how many spam emails you get every day, right? Like everybody does. Spam LinkedIn messages, spam WhatsApp messages, Facebook messages, emails. And it's the ones that are personalized that might stand out to you. And so just think about how you would like to be approached by a business trying to sell you their services. Don't take some like boilerplate approach, because people aren't going to reply. And actually, so to give you an example, I had somebody reach out to me the other day trying to sell me something, and I didn't need what they were selling, but their intro email was, hey, I watched this YouTube interview that you did a few years ago about time management, and they were trying to sell me VA services. They're like, it's really cool how focused you are on time management, and I really loved the interview. I wondered if I could help you save even more time. And I wrote back, I'm like, I don't need the service right now, but I love how you actually took time to personalize that. And so it's like stuff like that. Like, don't look at growing your business as just like plotting through all the steps. Like, enjoy it, research things, get to know people, personalize things, then you enjoy the process too. So that's what I would say.
The human to human connection.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Brandon. I know you have a demo call in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing some time with us, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Alan. I appreciate it.